Old strategy here. Yeah, like, oh, well, this guy's countering me. Yeah, it's a loser. I like how she's like, maybe you can use ice magic? That could be pretty good. Now it's like how she's basically very obvious, like, this guy's a fire elemental. Maybe you can use ice magic. Like, no, I can't. Like, I never learned, like, loser magic. Like, defeat him with more fire. I love it. She's like, use ice magic. Never! I'm just gonna defeat him with more fire magic, yeah. Fire against fire and he's punching with this. Okay, here we go. It's like, Megadeth. This is so 80s. I love it. This is so 80s. Megadeth. It's just so 80s, you know. It's like best spell I have, you know. Megadeth. Yeah, it's just so 80s, right? It's so like, you know, back in the in like, you know, 80s hard rock and so on. Yeah, heavy metal. It's like Megadeth spell. It just sounds so ridiculous, you know. This is what I really love this anime, though, right? And it feels so classic, you know. So I guess I keep saying so classic. You're watching an anime. It's like it's the old 80s. And the main character is like, here comes my spell, man, my best spell, Megadeth! And he's screaming, it feels really like, because it feels so over the top, you know, and this is why I love this anime a lot, because, yeah, it really represents that, you know, yeah, again, the old school, 80s, 90s, even the 70s, especially the 80s, right, and this kind of, the hard rock, heavy metal, this stuff, right, even some glam, you know, glam rock too, you know, like Kiss and so on, you know, with the demon, Starshine, it's very, you know, over the top, yeah, it's like, oh, I will summon my greatest spell, right, and every spell has this, like, absurd name, you know, yeah, Exodus Megadeth, it has to be this kind of, like, absurd, you know, and I like that. When I worked on, like, a video game a few years ago, we had, you know, I was designing the different characters and so on, right? And my like work names on all the characters were like the Destroyer, Annihilator, you know, yeah, Juggernaut. Those are kind of my names, right, for all the characters, right? And then some of them got, you know, actual personality names, right? And some of them actually just remain having those working names that I have in the documents in the scripts and so on, right? As actual gaming names, right? So I certainly kind of love the shit, yeah. And I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be a huge guy. He has the destruction magic. I'm gonna call him the Annihilator. There we go. So hello, I'm on here to talk about Bastard episode 5 and 6. Like I said yesterday that I want to just binge all at once. I want to enjoy the anime, right? Before watching it, I said one thing here. Yesterday, after I watched the episode, I was like, Lars, right? And I tweeted about it. So I was like, why is his name Lars for? That's like very common name in Scandinavia, right? Not a very common name in anime. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Then I finally got it. Of course, Lars Ulrich, right? Of course, you know, Metallica. So I was like, oh, it has to be, right? And then I Googled that, and it's all like, it's a guy named Lars Metallica, whatever. Metallica, whatever the country name is later or something. Like, obviously, it's of course from Metallica, right? Yeah, like. So I expect, I guess, all the characters are gonna be them, like Axl Rose or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he had a Guns N' Roses tag, right? So, I mean, if it's like every character is gonna have a name after some, you know, rock band or something, right? It's probably gonna, it was a glam rock too. It's gonna be like Jens Sim or something, like Gene, the demon or whatever. It's probably gonna appear. But anyway, let's watch the episode. Episode 1 to 3 was awesome. Episode 4 I felt was a little weaker, right? Just in how it was censored, right? It was very censored. Talking about it at length yesterday. I feel that was the longest review, right? Episode 4, I was like, what? So much censorship. But here we are, the first episode 5. So, see, wait, the full course of Dark Elf. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we are like, where's the Dark Elf lady? Where's the Dark Elf with the big, you know, the big dark ass? Come on. When it's a Dark Elf coming, that's Lars, of course. Yeah, the freaking dragon there. But yeah, where's the goddamn Dark Elf? You know, like, it's time, baby. She's probably coming after this arc with Gara. And I have to wonder, I said it yesterday, right? But I have to wonder if Gara is named after, or well, I mean, reverse, I mean, if Naruto's Gara, right, is named after this Gara. Because I don't think I heard about Gara every time before, but obviously Gara is a very, you know, iconic character in Naruto. But this guy is the ninja guy, right? Even though he does nothing that's ninja, right? But yeah, what do you guys think? Is he named, is Gara in Naruto named this anime, or manga? Perhaps, right? Yeah. Kishimoto, but there's a manga, I'd be like, that's a cool name for a ninja. Right? Because this feels kind of like now when I say, huh, this old 80 manga had a ninja named Gara. Yeah, it's like, explaining his strategies here. Yeah, like, oh, you know, yeah, Ifrit is a fire guy and they get stronger by this thing. And yeah, now it's like narrating Guns N' Roses spell. Yeah, damn it, this guy got stronger Guns N' Roses than me. Yeah, obviously that's fire spell. And yeah, Guns N' Roses, which is like, actually, I'm pretty good in somatic. Oh, suddenly the princess anti-fire medic? Haha, no, never! He hates cold spell? That's for losers, yeah. Yeah, that's for losers. I like how she's like, maybe you can use Ice Magic? That could be pretty good. Now, it's like how she's basically very obvious, like, this guy's a fire elemental. Maybe you can use Ice Magic. Like, no, I can't. Like, I never learned, like, loser magic, like Ice Magic. But I feel her suggestion is so blatantly obvious. Like, yeah, you know, it's like a fire Pokemon. Throw water at him. It's like, I guess, but I don't have water skills. I'm not saying she's wrong, but I'm just saying it was the most obvious suggestion ever. Yeah, he's a Charizard. What if you do like a Hydro Pump on him? Yeah, like it's gonna overpower him in fire or something, right? Because he's a badass super main character. He needs to be like, I need to beat him in his own game, right? Yeah, I need to like, oh, fire! I need to like take him in on fire or something. Typical Dark Snyder. It's like I need to defeat him in, yeah. I need to beat him in fire, right? I need to beat him in fire, baby. Ah, now she's getting jealous. Now she understands. Some other woman kissed him. Dead bastard. Now she's like, wait a minute. He's cheating on me with another woman. Oh my god, now she gets it. He needs to have a kiss with another woman. Yeah, oh my god, no. But see, that's what I'm saying. He's gonna just defeat him in fire. It's like, I am the better fire magician, right? Exactly. He's like, haha, I can't use ice magics. I'm just the best fire magician. No, he's like, I'm the coolest, I'm the ultimate fire guy. Yeah. Now, of course, Dark Snyder is like, he's just so badass. It's like, I need to go inside of his fire and make a better fire. But this is why he's a cool main character, because it's such a stupid thing to do. It's very anime, yeah. Sonna Bacano! And I guess Garrett's like, that's my Dark Snyder. He's probably beating his own game, right? Yeah, I feel Garrett expects him to be like, that's right, that's the Dark Snyder I know. He probably used it more fire magic. Haha, it's too weak. Doesn't even want it. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like pretty weak fires. I mean, she actually used her face there, but yeah, she actually gave her clothes back. What? Or not new clothes or whatever. Definitely wonder if that is if that's in the manga. Oh, look at that. Yeah, he gave her like a, you know, yeah, he gave her like some little a new robe or something, or it's a towel at least. It's too bad. I don't know. It's a huge towel or like a robe or something. Yeah, whatever. I really wondered that is in the anime, or I mean. Yeah, okay, it's only covering one side of her body. Yeah, it feels very, you know, anime sensory again, right? Yeah, it's like, It's like, I wonder if she actually doesn't have those clothes on her in the manga, right? Yeah, it feels kind of weird how she kind of comes into it, like... Okay, now it went way weird. So yeah, weird. Now they removed half of it, seriously. Like the clothing kind of shrank there, right? Yeah, the robe kind of reduced in size there. And yeah, I haven't seen her yet. You saw her body? He's getting jealous, yeah. He's netto red. What? But this is what I mean, yeah. Like, it's just a robe, right, you know. Like, Soma does way more than this, yeah. And that's Lars, of course. Oh, this is feeling cheating here. You the one who kissed my boyfriend? You kissed Lucian? Friend. I like it, yeah. She's getting all jealous. Did you kiss my Dark Snyder? Whoa. He's owned, baby. He gets owned. His healing powers episode 1, though, so... I don't know why that would have stopped him throwing his spell there. It's like, yeah, you lost an arm, I can shoot it. I like how his ninja fans like, oh my god, he's going all out, he's lost an arm. They're like, oh my god, yeah, this guy's taking it seriously now. It's like, I guess so. The ninja's turning into this kind of like narrator. But I wonder if his mana left. Yeah, the ninja's turning into like, you know, the classic narrator guys. I wonder if he could throw more spells though. That probably was his last mana points. Yeah, like the ninjas are turning into this like, we're gonna narrate the battle and the strategies here. I think this, that didn't happen. Then I put oil on her. It's like, never happened. He's like narrating this like super hentai scene. Yeah, I was so hentai. Oh, yeah, he's like faking to provoke him. It never happened. He's like, that's right. I'm a hentai. Like, what is this thing? He's like narrating this like super light work though. He's like, yeah, I need everything to work. One more spell. There's a new spell maybe? Maybe stronger than Venom. It's stronger than the dollar. It's another Megadeth. Here we go. Okay, here we go. It's like Megadeth. This is feels so 80s. I love it. This is so 80s. Megadeth. It's just so 80s, you know. It's like best spell I have, you know. Megadeth. Yeah, it's just so 80s, right? It's so like, you know, back in the in like, you know, 80s hard rock and so on. Yeah, heavy metal. It's like Megadeth spell. It just sounds so ridiculous, you know. Megadeth. But yeah, but I do love it though. It's very clear. Yeah, it's very like, you know, Megadeth, and then everything explodes and he's like ruins the old castle. It's like, that's right. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, he creates like an A-bomb. It's like, he's not much of a ninja. He's like, oh my Lars, my little dragon. It's like much of a ninja. He's like, he's a tamer. Oh my bestie, my little Lars. His arm is back too, I guess, or something. I don't know how this works. No, his arm is also back too. Yeah, his arm has the wound spot. He grew a new arm or something, or he attached it. That did, I guess maybe this is played better in the manga. He's like, his arm on his back. He's like, ah, whatever. I lost the arm, but it's fine. I mean, Dark Slider's arm floated back, right? So that is fine. I mean, his arm was like during Megadeth, right? So that's fine. I mean, he obviously healed himself when he used his best spell, right? But Gara's arm is also back because reasons. Maybe Dark Slider fixed it. I lied to you, Dark Slider. No. And now the prince gets Netherred too. It's very Netherred, I feel that. Yeah, these two keep being like, no, I wanna kiss him with the maiden kiss. Finally, the Dark Elf. Oh my god, this is finally the babe. Lars can speak right! Yes! Finally, I was like, the dragon doesn't have to speak right. The dragon is like, huh? Lars? The dragon was important. Yeah, I was saying the dragon speak right. It's a magical dragon. We get this scene right. Then he cannot talk about it, right? And he's like doing his lies. Oh, we did everything, man. Oh, you should know, Dark Snyder. We had intercourse for like 20 hours. I only been here for 1 hour. We did it for the whole day. I just got here. Yeah, she's like, you're lying, right? He's like, I'm getting all angry. He's like, and it's all is him, for that matter, just lying, right? For that matter. So first of all, it never actually happened, right? Yes, he did a slime that like saw your clothes, right? But Gara is just like narrating his, you know, dark fantasy or whatever, right? But again, right, I do definitely wonder, right, you know, because the scene before, she is like, he's carrying her, and he's giving her like clothing, right, and then she puts her down, like gently too, and then she kind of stands there and gets angry at him, you know, he's like describing what he did to her, right, to piss Dark Snyder off, right, and I had to come back to this censorship thing, right, because it also felt censored, right, yeah, perhaps, again, I haven't read the manga, right, but I'm just envisioning that the manga, like an old school dark fantasy manga, right, he probably carries her, you know, naked, right, you know, and then he puts her down, right, and it's not an actual, like, an actual scene, right, because then he's lying, right, so it's not an actual scene, but you know what I mean, but it felt weird again, right, but he picks her up, right, and she has clothing on her suddenly, for no reason for that matter either, because he picked her up from the dungeon whole thing, right, and then the next scene, suddenly she's dressed, right, and then he puts her down like this, right. So it definitely feels like she probably is supposed to not have clothes on her, right, in that scene. Still not that super etchy, even if she was showing, so to speak, right, it wouldn't be a very, like, super dirty scene anyway, right, because she just gently puts her down anyway, like that, right, so it's not like an actual, like, you know, hen scene, regardless, right, regardless it wouldn't be like, wow, but I think you get my point, right, it feels like, yeah, that clothing she suddenly had on her, that cloth she suddenly was wearing, and then it's probably added right in the anime, and then she gets this black cloth from the princess. That's probably kind of manga too. I will guess, right, that this black robe that the princess gives her, that's probably how it should be, right? But like the first few minutes before that, the white robe or the white towel or whatever, this huge towel or whatever, right? The white cloth thing, that's probably anime only. That's what I would guess. Right? So I think it's kind of come back to that again, right? But I mean, there was one scene where she was like floating in the sky when Gara was lying, right? That was the most etchy scene probably so far in all the anime. But it was lasted for like 2-3 minutes. Oh, sorry, 2 seconds. I mean, 2 seconds. And again, right? It's kind of unfair for you to compare it to like Sogen no Soma or something. But again, it feels kind of weird, right? Because you know what I mean. Sogen no Soma, very popular anime, right? They eat food and they get like, oh, it's so good food, yeah. That anime, right? When they eat their food, is more visual than that scene was. And I think one thing though that I think I had to point out here, right? Is that when it comes to Soma, when they do it in Soma, right, it's not like super hentai, it's obviously ecchi, right, you know, it's different, right? It's obviously very, very ecchi, and sometimes Soma definitely pushes the border, or Soma can be very, very dirty sometimes, right? But I think the difference here that I really want to specify here, honestly, right, when I review this anime, is that in Soma, those scenes are pretty long. I think that's probably the biggest difference here, because if she kept doing his lie there, if that lie where she was like floating in the sky, like, oh my god, yeah, you know, if that lie was like a 2-3 minutes, right, and he describing this thing, right, then it would feel like, oh yeah, this feels, now it's kind of etchy, right, you know, now it feels kind of long etchy scene. Because in Soma, of course, as a title about when they eat the food, right, they can have like a few minutes, right, of everyone being like, ah! And then sometimes in Soma, I think one thing, especially in Soma, is that you can have 5, 6 more ladies, right? Like the tournament, it's a very minor spoiler, it's a tournament with like 4 ladies, right, being the judges. So then we see 4 MILFs being like, ah, they're food, you know, yeah. They're all 4 of them are like, ah, then we see them different clothing running around in the sky or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, then those things can be quite long, right? It can be like a few minutes of like seeing all the characters reacting to the food, right? So I think that's also why this feels so little ecchi, right? Because yeah, he was lying for like a minute, and we saw like 2 scenes. One with her and chains on her, that was not very ecchi whatsoever, right? So it's like fully clothed chains. The next scene is just like, oh, you know, but still not actually showing anything. And then it's over, and that was very, very quick, right? Again, it feels like I'm only watching anime for ecchi stuff, but no, but I always feel like it feels strange, right? It's just, I still like the anime a lot, but as I said yesterday, it feels very, very strange watching a dark fantasy from the 80s, and as I said yesterday, that it feels more censored than, you know, a modern anime, right? It feels really weird, yeah. It feels strange. I mean, of course, last episode was much more focused on ecchi anyway, so it's not a big complaint, but it's kind of, I'm just kind of coming back to what I still like it though, this kind of facing someone. Yeah, I mean, honestly, right, because this to some people might sound silly or whatever, this anger face, big mouth and so, but I like this, you know, this is like the 80, obviously I grew up in this age, you know what I mean, so I like this old school anime manga, right? I think some people doesn't like these kind of graphical scenes anymore, right, when their face turn into this one, but you know, I really grew up and I love stuff like Ranma, for example, right, Ranma 1.5 from one of my favorite mangas, right, I have all the books and so on, Loom of course coming, you know, remake and so on, right? And they do this more, this kind of 80, 90, you know, art style, and obviously Dragon Ball was, you know, I got Dragon Ball so on, right? Did this more too, you know, in the beginning. Yeah, Dragon Ball, of course, to slump, if it's more so, right? In the beginning is much more, you know, comedic, right? And then Dragon Ball Z, as it's called sometimes, right? You know, kind of different then. I think it's a good point to actually different Dragon Ball Z or whatever from Dragon Ball, because the big difference is the comedy, right? I still love Dragon Ball, don't get me wrong, I love Dragon Ball, I have all the books and I read them 10 times over, right? But the first books in Dragon Ball are much more like this, right? You know, bigger faces, reaction faces, yeah. It's more comedy, right? And then it gets more martial arty, then it gets more like fighty. But yeah, I like this stuff, you know. So I do enjoy the comedy. Like I am a sucker for this kind of. This is what I really love this anime, though, right? And it feels so classic, you know. So I guess I keep saying so classic. You're watching an anime, it's like this is the old 80s. And the main character is like, here comes my spell, man, my best spell, MEGADEATH! And he's screaming, it feels really like, because it feels so over the top, you know, and this is why I love Simon Opera, because, yeah, it really represents that, you know, yeah, again, the old school, 80s, 90s, even the 70s, especially the 80s, right, and this kind of, the hard rock, heavy metal, this stuff, right, even some glam, you know, glam rock too, you know, like Kiss and so on, you know, with the demon, Starshine, it's very, you know, over the top, yeah, it's like, oh, I will summon my greatest spell, right, and every spell has this, like, absurd name, you know, yeah, Exodus Megadeth, it has to be this kind of, like, absurd, you know, and I like that. When I worked on, like, a video game a few years ago, we had, you know, I was designing the different characters and so on, right? And my like work names on all the characters were like the Destroyer, Annihilator, you know, yeah, Juggernaut. Those are kind of my names, right, for all the characters, right? And then some of them got, you know, actual personality names, right? And some of them actually just remain having those working names that I have in documents in the scripts and so on, right? As actual gaming names, right? So I certainly kind of love the shit, yeah. And I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be a huge guy. He has the destruction magic. I'm gonna call him the Annihilator. I am definitely like that, yeah. Oh, this guy's the Annihilator. And then my boss is like, nah, this sounds too cheesy and it's like too old. People, but this sounds better. I was like, no. And then he's like, I should give you my real name, right? But so if you look at the documents and if you actually go into the code, right, or whatever, the code is gonna be like Annihilator does, you know, 11 damage or whatever, right? So I searched for that. So like a side note. In a lot of video games, right, when you work in games or whatever, right, and people that go into, you know, and they look at the source data, right, they look at the code of the games, right, and they kind of try to, you know, harvest data to maybe, how say it, like, you know, find the next DLC character or whatever, right. That's the reason why you have to find it, right, you know, because you have working names, right, and then you have the actual character name, right. So you might have a character named the Annihilator, right, for like a year when you're developing the character, but then you actually, you know, published the game, right, the name has been changed to like Lars, right? That's the actual personal name, right? But all the files in the data, right, and all the code files, like summon the annihilator does 5 damage, annihilator gets, you know, speed buff, whatever. The annihilator does like his third ability, right? So they usually have, so you have a working name and you have like a. That's why it's commonly like that, right? So when people harvest those kind of game data files, they find this like, you know, maybe the game data file is called like, you know, Amazon, you know, Black Amazon Muscle Lady, right? Or whatever stupid name. And then they're like, oh, there has to be, you know, this Sheila, the muscle girl, has to be her, right? You know. So they had to like figure out what the working name is in the actual game, right? You know, it's very, very common, right? Yeah, you're like, oh yeah. That's what it is. But that's the next episode. But yeah, I love this shit. I mean, for me, I'm a sucker for this stuff. Yeah, Exodus, Megadeth, baby. But yeah, but seriously, I think that's interesting just from a standpoint too. So for example, I can't say too much here, but I can give a last point here. You know, subscribe and slap it and all the good stuff, right? But I'll say a last point here about gaming, right? So on. I worked on this same game, and there was some of the some of the working names were kind of crazy because I am like that. So some of the working names were like cannibalistic, this thing or something, yeah. And then, you know, the CEO or someone is like, you can't have that. You're gonna, people are gonna tweet that. But it's awesome. And they're like, no, they're gonna start. So, you know, I think it's usually like that, right? You know, if you're the designer, you're the artist, you're the ID guy, right? Because I was the ID guy, you know. Your IDs, my IDs, right? They signed the design IDs, right? On paper, they are way crazier, you know. Like they are. That's honestly how I think usually it is, right? If you work on a bigger thing. That's why, you know, doing your own manga is something I would love to do if I could draw, you know what I mean? Yeah, because in a sense, right, the IDs you have, right, they get censored. I'm talking about censorship, but they get censored, right? So seriously, scrap it, so yeah, freaking the more videos about this stuff you want to. Please leave a comment if you want more videos about this stuff, right? But seriously, right, you get a lot of censor, right? Because, of course, my game IDs, right, or lore or whatever, the characters are way more crazy than what you actually get as a gamer, right? Because I write my IDs and it's like, this guy's gonna do this thing, this ability is gonna be called this thing, right? And it's gonna be like, she eats the people, this thing or whatever. And then, you know, the boss is like, oh, we can't do that. People are probably gonna get angry at Twitter or whatever, right? Or something like that, right? If anything, it was kind of weird because, talk about too much here. But it was very, I felt that was very annoying because, like, I was very progressive in that game, okay? I was, like, extremely progressive. I was like, I actually think Twitter is gonna like this game. I was very left-leaning, so to speak. Yeah, I was very, very left. Like, the main character is a sexual main character or so on, right? And that is the canon, though. So I wrote a lore, yeah. The main, I say what game it is, but the main character is gender, yeah, has changed her gender then. And so on. But actually the main character can change gender back and forth. It's gender fluid, literally. So, and so on, right? So, no, I think it was very progressive. But that actually is still a canon in the game, though. But it's a bunch of other stuff that was very similar, right? And the CEO actually was like, no, you gotta cut that. You can't have, like, this many. So I think it was kind of funny, too, because then they get, you know, they kind of showing maybe some bigotry, maybe, yeah. They're like, you can't have that many characters that are, you know, trans or whatever. I'm like, I don't see the problem with this. So, so that kind of stuff happens too, right? And it reminds me of, this is the last thing before F6 here. It reminds me of the X-Men, you know? Because Mystique in the X-Men, right, was supposed to be the father of Rogue in the original X-Men. And that's his adopted mother of Rogue. Because Mystique has changed gender, right? So the original author wrote Mystique. At least I don't know if it's true, but I read about this in some articles, right, a couple years ago. And it's been a rumor at least for 20 years, is that, yeah, she was supposed to actually be literally the parent of Rogue, but as a man then, right, you know, because she's dating Arena, right, the blind seer. So Mystique and Arena are like, and that's weird too, right, because, yeah, Mystique can change gender, but they're like lesbians or something in the comics eventually, but isn't Mystique then both genders, right? But yeah, so it makes sense, right, you know, because Mystique can be both genders, she actually impregnated Arena, and that, you know, give birth to Rogue. But so that was the original plan in this storyline reveal in the 80s or whatever, right? But then they had to change that, right? Because the bosses was like, no, this is way too progressive, right? It's way crazy. Yeah, people are gonna think it's crazy, and they're like, it's pretty cool. No, so that happens a lot. Yeah, it happens a lot, you know. And that's why again I love this kind of show, right? Because it's the 80s. This guy clearly got to do what he wanted, right? So he can have all these crazy ideas, and I love this stuff like Megadeth and so on. But it's but yeah, that's one thing I would say, having worked mostly with games, right, is that because games is a huge project, right, and you have like maybe 100, maybe you have from 10 to like, you know, 100, 200, maybe 500 colleagues, right, unfortunately you know even as a designer or whatever, right, very rarely do you get I want to have all this crazy stuff I want in the game, right, because people are like, no, everyone stops you, right, from having the coolest ideas and so on. And I feel like, for example, X-Men probably the same thing, right? Like people have some really cool ideas, but then they're like, oh, we're a big company, we have all these people, we can't do this stuff. It's like, oh. So, but that's probably also, I think manga and anime usually is better, right, than Marvel comics and so on. I have Spider-Man now, but because Marvel, DC and so on, right, you have several different authors writing on the same character eventually, right? That alone makes it a little more, but you can't really write that storyline. You can't make Mystique a father of Rogue. Then this author, he's gonna have trouble writing that story. He's gonna be confused or whatever. That's gonna be weird or whatever. Yeah, I think that's a big too, right? We're in manga, Japanese culture as well, but also they have one author writing it all, right? Most of the time they have and so on, but they're writing most of it, right? I think it's also better for like this is my idea, right? When you start having like 20-30 authors working on different characters, like Spider-Man and so on, right? It gets a lot of conflict and arguments, right? I can just imagine being a Marvel writer. Even if you're like, I am writing Spider-Man this year, right, or whatever, or this 5 years I'm a Spider-Man writer, you still have to imagine that their colleagues, right, that maybe wrote Spider-Man before them. It's like, you don't write that storyline, you can't kill Mary Jane, that's gonna ruin this, what I wrote. I think there's a lot more, conflicts, right? Even if someone is a head writer of the characters currently, they might be like, I can't kill this character, this guy could be angry at me and so on. Yeah, I think it's so much harder to write this stuff. But anyway, I digress.